an entitled jerk gets arrested on a tour boat after he endangered the boat, the crew, and the passengers by trying to mess with the controls in really bad weather. But as a result, this guy got locked in a storage closet as the boat was brought back to shore, with 2 Coast Guards waiting for this entitled jerk. And I seriously hope that this guy got in trouble for ruining our trip. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm currently in Hawaii. I booked a boat tour and things were going well. The boat stopped for a little bit for people to swim, and the entitled jerk of this story starts talking to the woman who's captain of the ship about how he was in the Navy way back in the day, telling her stories that she obviously didn't care to hear. You could tell she was annoyed, but she tried to be a polite tour guide while also trying to do her job and watch over the swimmers. Eventually, the waves got a little bit higher, so we were told to get on the boat. As we were trying to leave, the anchor was stuck on a rock, so the captain and crew had to do a lot of maneuvering to get the anchor out. There was a crewman in the water trying to see the anchor, and the rest of the crew frantically running around doing different things. It started to seem like a dangerous situation, so the rest of the tourists just sat down, kept quiet, and got out of the way. The weather quickly started to turn for the worse as the wind started to pick up. Well, this entitled jerk kept interfering with the crew. He was yelling orders, he was confusing the crew, trying to copy hand signals, and eventually the captain ordered him to sit down. Well, as he sat down, he was muttering how he would have done things differently, and this is in some typical jerk fashion, looking for someone to reassure his comments. The crew was still dealing with the anchor, and the guy in the water is fighting the waves and trying to direct the boat. Other crew members are relaying orders while keeping an eye on the guy in the water. The captain couldn't see the guy in the water from the control area and was trying to do a lot of small movements to try and get the anchor out while also trying to not run over the diver. Well, this entitled jerk then got up and did something that I honestly never expected him to do. He started messing with the controls, and right when he did that, the captain rightfully chewed him out, and the way she did this was pretty epic. She chewed him out and told him to sit down right now. And once they got the anchor unstuck, another crewmate continued to carry on with chewing this guy out and had to confine this guy to a storage closet area of the boat. The captain then told everybody to find a seat, telling us to not get up, and then said that we were returning to shore. When we got back to the dock, we arrived there with 2 Coast Guard people waiting for this jerk. I'm not totally sure what happened, but I hope he got some kind of fine at the very least. This entitled jerk endangered the boat, the crew, and ruined 50 people's trip, all because he wanted to pretend that he was important again. And I really hope that he gets in trouble in the way that he deserves. Wow, what was this guy thinking? Like, what he was doing was so unsafe. He doesn't know that boat at all. He probably hasn't even run a boat in how many years? Like what, 30 years or something like that? Like this old entitled jerk just steps up and says, "I'm gonna help out." Like, dude, what are you doing? You're gonna get everybody killed. Like, there's already a guy in the water trying to get the anchor out, and this guy walks up and starts messing with the controls of the boat. Like, he could have taken that guy out and then taken everybody out in the process. So truly, I'm right there with the original poster. I hope they get exactly what they deserve, and that the Coast Guard were not just there for intimidation, because what that guy did is so bad, and I really think that you and the rest of the crew got incredibly lucky. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for being mad at my fiance after he secretly spent our small travel fund? Because right now I am very angry, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so a few months ago, my fiance and I decided to start a small travel fund. I told my fiance that when I was in my 20s, I used to save up money for trips, and that I never used my travel fund for anything else, such as being tempted to grab some cash from it when I really needed it. It helped me save plenty without burning a hole in my pocket once I was on the road, and he liked the idea. I made it explicitly clear that this was super important to me because we don't have super high earnings, and anything we can save for the fund would be lovely since we were planning to travel to Italy this year. For 3 to 4 months, we both contributed to the fund, and we saved up enough to cover accommodation expenses, which made me really excited. Well, a few days ago, I was cleaning up, and something made me look into our fund. Now, the fund is in an envelope, which I know that's a bad idea, and I opened it just to remind myself of how much we saved, only to find that the entire fund was empty. The money was completely gone. When my fiance came back from the store, I asked him where the money was, and he said he spent half of it on a gift he recently bought me, which for reference was a hardcover comic book that I knew knew was pricey and was very happy and grateful to receive it at the time, and my fiance wouldn't say what the other half was for. And when he told me this, I was livid, not because he spent the money, although that really does still upset me, but because he spent it without telling me. His excuse is that he didn't take me seriously when I said this was important to me. My fiance said he would put the money back and that he was sorry and that he didn't think it was going to be such a big deal. I told him that I didn't trust him anymore, and to the fact that he used money that I contributed to the fund to either buy my own gift or to spend it on God knows what was a severe violation of trust from my point of view. My fiance said I was being a jerk about it, and we are still very upset with each other. So seriously, am I the jerk in this scenario? Because I really at this point don't know what to do. Your fiance is so far out of line in my opinion, it's not even funny. For starters, no, of course you're not the jerk. This guy literally bought you a gift with your own money. Like, how does he not realize that's exactly what he did? And you know what? He absolutely should put money back in that fund. It really should go in like a bank account or at least somewhere safe where he can't get his grubby fingers all over it, because clearly he can't be trusted with that money ever again. Like, I'm right there with the original poster. I would feel like my trust was completely shattered by that one act of like dishonesty, and I just would never trust him with that vacation fund ever again, because you put probably a lot of time and money into that, not to mention the fact that you guys don't make that much money as it is. So for him to just spend it all of a sudden without telling you first, that in my opinion is completely uncalled for. And in my opinion, you definitely do not deserve that in the slightest. My cousin has become an entitled, spoiled brat, and it's honestly become super upsetting. And I'm now in the process of cutting all contact with them because they have become completely insufferable, and I absolutely do not want to have a relationship with her. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that my cousin used to be a kind, creative, and caring person. We used to be close. We would play Roblox for hours and go to the park as kids, but now she has completely changed. I see my aunt sometimes and do chores for her, and honestly, my cousin is a complete slob. She leaves trash and dirty dishes everywhere. She leaves food in the sink and half-empty soda cans on the counter. She is almost a legal adult and doesn't do her own laundry. I mean, she doesn't even put her own dishes in the dishwasher. If she uses up the last of something, she just leaves empty packages on the counters and leaves it for others to clean up. I was visiting my aunt today, and my cousin left an empty container of milk on the counter, and her mom put it on the coffee table for her to clean, and she just threw it on the table. She leaves garbage and hair all over the place, and she's also incredibly rude to anyone who isn't her boyfriend or her friend. She is completely disrespectful to her mom and treats her mom like a slave, while also treating her like a free Uber service and expects her to do whatever she wants at the moment she wants it. She treats our grandma like an ATM, and she doesn't even call her, let alone visit her. Yet she still expects our grandma to pay for her phone bill, her Spotify, and so much more. She recently got a free trip to Europe, completely paid for by her mom and my grandmother. Her mom got mad when another family member didn't help pay. Meanwhile, this person hasn't even spoken to her in years. She is completely enabled and spoiled rotten. At least to my knowledge, she faces no consequences for anything. The most that might happen is that she will get told off once in a while, yet still nothing changes. She is completely rude to me and mocks my sensory issues, and when I'm over doing chores or visiting my aunt, I often hear her on the phone talking crap about other people. The most annoying thing is that she's getting paid $10 a week for acting like this. I admit that I am paid by my grandmother when I do chores for her, and my mom and my aunt buy me gifts sometimes because I do almost every chore for them, but I don't care what I get. I care that she gets paid and gets whatever she wants for doing nothing. Her mom always says that I need a relationship with her, but I always say absolutely not. I don't want a relationship with a disrespectful slob who is spoiled and entitled. I don't want a relationship with someone who is selfish and uses others. I don't want a relationship with someone who has no self-discipline. I don't consider her family, and I'm already in the process of cutting off all contact. Yeah, I completely understand where the original poster is coming from, because I can't stand people who act this way. Like, what the original poster is describing is someone who literally lives at home rent-free and doesn't do anything to contribute to anything in the house. Like, they're messy, they're a slob, they treat everybody like garbage, and they're always using people for free stuff, like money or a ride or, I don't know, labor. Like, your cousin literally doesn't do any chores, and it baffles me that your aunt isn't like stepping up and being like, okay, if you want to live here, you got to step up and do something. So honestly, it really is disappointing to have a cousin like that, but at least you know exactly the kind of people you want to be associated with. with. Because from the sounds of it, your cousin is super entitled, and I don't blame you for choosing to keep your distance. My parents are guilt-tripping me into staying in their house and continuing to live with them, saying that I'm not ready to move in with my boyfriend and that I would be useless since I'm not financially independent yet. And at this point, I'm so confused and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so currently I'm a 23-year-old female and I just newly graduated. I've been living with roommates the past few years, and it's been hard for my mental health moving back in with my family. They constantly want to know what I'm doing, where I am, and try to track my location, and will get upset if I go out too much. For context, I just finished school 2 weeks ago and have been hanging out with my friends and my boyfriend on the weekends only. I feel like I also walk on eggshells in the house as my mom has anger problems, and every few weeks, her and my dad will have a screaming match or start throwing things at each other. And whenever that isn't happening, they make snide remarks and insults at each other. So it's just a matter of time for the next fight to happen. I have about $6,000 in savings, and my boyfriend offered to let me move in with him if I would pay $1,250 a month in rent. I'll be studying for my licensing exam for the next 3 months, while also working full-time to ensure my savings don't deplete too fast. But here's the thing, my parents are very against this, as they think moving in prior to marriage is wrong, and they say that I can't take care of myself, and that I'm not good at housework so he won't want me because I'm useless and I should be financially independent as a woman first. My parents hate that I'd be giving money to his family as his mom owns the condo that he rents, and they're guilt-tripping me into staying, saying things like they're living off of their savings and that they're broke, and that family comes first, and I shouldn't give away my hard-earned money to some other people to help pay off their mortgage. My dad doesn't have a good earning job, and my mom is a stay-at-home job who takes care of the house. They didn't put a single cent towards my education, other than my dad paying gas to drive me home sometimes during school breaks, and helping me move out of my university home. But they're saying because I'm family and they spent a lot of money raising me, I need to get a job soon and put that money towards the family to help. They will be charging me market rent or just below once I get a nursing job. So right now, I just need to hear some unbiased opinions on if it's okay for me to move out. I know my parents are toxic, but it's also hard to differentiate what's right and wrong because this is just how I was raised. What should I do? Okay, I want to say first and foremost that moving out would not be a bad idea. There is nothing wrong with you moving in with your boyfriend, and I think you really should ignore your parents if this is something you really want to do. It seems like they're grasping at straws right now. They're trying to find any excuse to keep you in the house, most likely because they gain some kind of benefit by you being in the house, whether that's free labor or like money you're making from your job or something like that. And to top it all off, they sound really manipulative, not to mention the anger issues that they very clearly have. And just to help you out, parents who throw things and get angry at the drop of a hat are not normal parents. That is not a normal upbringing or a normal household, and I'm so sorry you have to deal with that. You really do deserve to have peace in your life and to have some semblance of like happiness to look towards. And in my opinion, an actually loving family who was supportive would encourage you to try and succeed. But it really seems like your parents are trying to keep you in their house just to make you miserable. Like if I was in your shoes, I would move in with my partner like right away. There's no way I would hesitate on that, especially based on the way you describe the way your parents are acting, because their behavior is absolutely atrocious. And if I was in your shoes, I would move out sooner than later. My dad expects me to text him, call him, and update him almost every single day. And at the age of 25, I feel like I'm going crazy, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my parents divorced when I was 2 years old, and my dad has always done his best to be in my life. My older brother and I used to love spending the day with him every Saturday. At some point when I was around 12 years old, my older brother stopped coming. My mom and dad had some bad custody and child support fights early on, and my older brother sided with my mom. I tried to stay neutral just to avoid hurting anybody. From there until college, I would visit my dad alone. He wasn't too pushy about texting or calling, but would always cross into overprotective. He would text me almost daily to check in, and on the few instances I forgot to answer, if I was maybe out with friends or fell asleep or if I was sick, he would text my mom and demand to know that I was okay. A few times my mom was asleep as well and didn't answer, so he called the police to my mom's house in the middle of the night. Our relationship started to get really bad right before college, and we were fighting all the time, but he would always attribute this to me being a hormonal teenager. And I think it was because I was struggling for more independence. My first year of college, college, he lost his high-paying job and all of his income. He had to move in with his mom to a different state where they still live together. She is immunocompromised, and he takes care of her, so they both have essentially not left the house since COVID. He is set on looking for virtual work and has been doing nothing but studying daily, sleeping weird hours, and applying for jobs for the last 5 years. And I'm honestly not even exaggerating, they don't do much else. I haven't seen either of them in 5 years, and he says he isn't ready for me to visit yet because he is ashamed of the situation. Our current schedule is as follows. We speak about 2 times a week on a set day and at a set time for 1 hour each. Both of these calls end up going way over an hour, and he guilt trips me when I try to wrap up, even though I have things to do around the house, as well as fitness classes, dinner to make, as well as many other things. During this call, I am not allowed to walk or clean or cook or be outside or literally do anything else besides sit and just listen to him. In fact, if he hears any noise in the background, he gets angry. When I try to push back on this, he says that I probably waste time on 100 other things and can set aside 2 hours or more a week just to speak to him. Now, we don't have much to talk about, as I don't like to tell him about my life. He likes to debate or turn everything I mention to him into a negative or some kind of life lesson. I have been in an amazing relationship for almost a year that I simply haven't had the energy to tell him about because I know he's going to find a million things wrong with it. He's going to complain that he's a different religion, which is apparently the worst thing in the world, even though I'm not religious and neither is my boyfriend or my dad. We talk about my job occasionally, but I am not interested in climbing the corporate ladder or learning the games that he wants me to play. He doesn't have anything happening in his life either, since all he does is study for open roles that he finds. He usually spends our phone call just talking about the mistakes he's made in life and about how I should avoid them, as well as current events and politics and things going on in the job market. I'm not really interested in these things that he talks about, and I don't want to follow in his footsteps. So I mostly just stare at the wall and listen for an hour and a half, and I just try to sound interested. In addition to these calls, he always wants me to text him within 15 minutes of arriving at work, and this is just like the phone calls 2 days a week. He wants me to text him when I am home from work before 6 p.m., and if I'm running late, I have to call him and let him know. For reference, my commute is a safe and easy 20-minute ride. I also have to answer his daily nighttime check-in text messages where he's asking me how things are going, if I have any questions, and if I'm home, and I have to do this within 30 minutes. Now, I am not on my phone often and have missed responding on time to a few of them, which led to some really bad fights. We eventually settled on me texting him myself every night once I was home and not planning to leave. Lastly, he wants me to let him know if I go out on the weekends and text him when I'm home, which I think is fair. One important thing to note is that when I first moved into my own place a couple of years ago to be near my work, he had very strict rules about where I had to live, namely places with a doorman with buildings with cameras or in some safe part of the city, which is all really reasonable, but it is very expensive. I was doing well for myself, but I couldn't afford those amenity buildings on my own. It would be similar to New York City, where you can find affordable apartments in okay areas on a decent entry-level salary, but not the amenity buildings in a very nice area. My dad agreed to cover the rest and did so for about a year and a half, but a few months ago, right after I re-signed for another year, he told me that he ran out of money. I've been putting all the extra on my credit card, which he promises to pay back once he gets a job. I don't know when that will be, and of course, I will not be resigning unless things turn around, but I am kind of stuck in this situation. I wish I could say that this is the only reason I want to keep the relationship with him, but money is not worth a bad mental state. I can't say that it doesn't make me anxious, but I could end our relationship and walk away with a few thousand in debt. The truth is that I feel bad for him, and he makes me feel guilty if I don't put him first. My parents are European, and he says it's a very American mentality to not put your family first, that I should want to call him often, and I should feel bad if I know he's worrying about me, that if I can text him to let him know that I'm okay, then that is exactly what I should be doing. I've tried to ask that we cut back on communication and how much he relies on my responses, but he just calls me selfish. For reference, I have an excellent relationship with my mom and her side of the family. I call her to chat almost daily, and we talk about all the things in her life and in mine. She knows and has met my boyfriend, and she has my location, so she always knows when I'm safe. She doesn't force anything on me and doesn't turn everything negative or into a life lesson, so I love telling her about my life and keeping her updated. When I try to explain this to my dad, he basically insinuates that if my mom isn't checking in in on me regularly, then she just doesn't care. Even as I'm typing this, I can see that this is not healthy. He says he is much better than most dads, but I mean, is that true? I just don't know what to do. I don't want to cut him off or end the relationship because he doesn't have anything else. No other close friends or family besides his mom. I love him a lot and the financial tie doesn't help. It's easy to suggest setting a hard boundary, but he always follows up by saying, "Oh, so you're okay with knowing that I'm stressing out and there's something you can do to fix it, but you won't?" I mean, do I just say yes in that instance? I feel like I can't do this forever. I hate being attached to my phone and constantly anxious, and I feel like I'm reaching my breaking point. What should I do? Okay, honestly, it really seems like your dad is super controlling. I know you love him and you really do care about him and he has nobody else, but seriously, when is enough enough? For reference, the original poster is 25. Like, they are very well into adulthood, and in my opinion, what you're going through sounds super stressful and just super inappropriate. I mean, the nightly check-ins, the guilt tripping if you don't call him, as well as him calling the police at one point, all because he couldn't get in contact with you, like that's insane. That is not normal behavior, and honestly, I just don't think that's something you should put up with. Because in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would be standing up for myself, and I really would be trying to put some kind of boundary up, because what you're describing is not okay, and in my opinion, you do not deserve that in the slightest. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.